Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Michael. I work here in the UCD Smurfit Careers Network team here at UCD Smurfit. So I'd like to welcome you all here this afternoon to our Smurfit Experience and Career Outcomes panel event. And I suppose the purpose here this afternoon is to hear about the career service on the one hand, and what you might expect to experience when you come and join us from next September, but also to hear from our esteemed alumni and to get an understanding of what their experiences were and how it has helped them to get to where they are today. So just a quick view of the agenda. So our career service, who we are, where we are located on campus. I'll run through then our kind of theory or our philosophy of career development, sometimes called professional development. Just a quick slide then on graduate outcomes, just a very general slide on where students have gone in one of our recent cohorts. And of course, the main event then is I'll invite our alumni panel, Nicole, Shubham and Ryan. We're joined by three of our esteemed alumni here this afternoon to and ask them some questions about their experiences at Smurfit and their career to date. And we will have time then for our Q&A. This is hopefully quite an interactive session. So if you have any questions on anything that's been said here, either by me or by the panel, just put it into the Q&A button. So just click on that and put your questions in there, the Q&A, and we'll get to those later on. Okay, so let's continue. So the UCD Smurfit Careers Network is what we call ourselves. That's the career service here at Smurfit. We're a standalone service, as in it's a dedicated service within the College of Business, right? So we are dedicated to the Smurfit students only. Right? There is a careers team based on the main campus in Belfield. They look after the rest of the university. But for our postgraduate business students, there's a dedicated team. And we have regular office hours on campus here at Smurfit. We're located behind the cash point, and so easily accessible here on campus, and we're delighted to see you throughout the year. The team, we're a small team, about five individuals at the moment, and we cater for graduate students, so they're the pre-experienced people, and we have a person who looks after the MBAs as well, so the experienced hires. And we provide different types of services throughout the year. Okay, so as I said, the philosophy here in the career development for our students is we kind of look at it from perhaps a three-stage perspective. And within, I suppose, the way it develops, we broke it up chronologically. Just it seems easiest to explain it that way. So you have stage 1, stage 2, and stage 3. And I'll just go through those and I suppose suggest to you as potential students here at Smurfit how you can engage with us throughout the year. Just to highlight very briefly that in I suppose one of the latest career outcomes. So this is the students who've been out from the 2019 class within 6 months, 89% of them are in employment. We just did the 2020 stats as well there recently. And it was practically quite similar, in around the 90% as well. So that's even during COVID. There are high employment rates coming from Smurfit. And I guess it's up to you then to be able to, during your time with us, to engage with the career service to ensure that you are also going to be in a position that you're going to be hired quickly for that job once the program is complete. So stage 1 then, what is that about? So we are very keen and very serious about setting you up for success, right from even before you ever join us here at Smurfit. So once you have completed your applications and once you're on our systems, we will engage with you almost immediately throughout the summer. So for those of you joining this September, we will engage with you and help to onboard you onto the programs here at Smurfit right from the get-go. So one of the things we like to get people working on very quickly is their CV, because it's an easy win, right? It's your story, and so trying to get you to understand how to write that story is going to be key. Remember, it's a short year here at Smurfit, and I'm sure our alumni will attest to that shortly, but it's quite short. It goes very quickly. So if you get some of the career work done in advance, it will help you get ready for those applications from September. We also share with you our own proprietary course here developed at UCD on the Irish jobs market called Jumpstart. And so that's for everyone. So for the international student, perhaps who has no idea about Ireland, or even from any student in Ireland who's not really engaged in job search so far. Well, there's always those people as well, right? So it gives you a bit of an insight into the jobs market. And we will share with you this with you again during the summer. And in addition, we will provide live webinars, one in July and one in August. So again, so serious about getting you ready in terms of preparing for success. We are engaging with you on all of these levels prior to ever setting foot on campus. So when you do actually set foot on campus and coming in for orientation, the Career Service will engage with you then on something called a Professional Development Workshop, sometimes fondly called a PDW. And we do have a tailored PDW for all our in-masters. So we have over 20 of these workshops will run during your orientation. It is very much helping you, again, understand the language of recruitment, building on the work you were doing in the summer, because many of you at graduate level in particular will jump straight in to the first recruitment cycle, which happens through October into November, sometimes called the milk rounds. And so the idea of trying to get you set up immediately, set up for success, is so important, particularly as the workload grows on your academic side. And we will invite alumni back. We'll have industry experts to help you understand, well, perhaps to focus on the sectors you would like to work in, and also the roles as well. That will be your task throughout your time with us, is to focus in on the role that you would like to get a job in post-program. And then if you're still looking for some assistance, we also provide one-to-one career coaching, and that is available online or in person. And it's booked on I suppose, through our online portals. But suffice it to say, at this point, this all of this is available to you before the program starts and into the first weeks of the trimester one. Right? So again, trying to get you set up for success, because you will have that little bit of a, I suppose, before the academic program ramps up, you will have that time. So important to use it wisely. Stage 2 then, as the trimester develops, we're looking at job search strategies. We have workshops on that. Our careers platform, My Career, has a ton of content in there, a lot of knowledge around sectors, around roles. Also understanding how to build your own story once you know which way you're going. So personal awareness building is important. One thing we've noticed, particularly during COVID, but it was always true to, I suppose, to say even before COVID, that one of the strongest points that you will see during your experience here at Smurfit is the networks that you're going to be able to get access to. So it's your job then, as a Smurfit student, to use those networks wisely. And this will then help you understand where you're going to, I suppose, end up once the program is over. So there'll be lots of alumni events. We've got international networks, the UCD business alumni chapters around the world. These are opportunities for you to engage not only perhaps with alumni here in Ireland, but also overseas, depending on where you would like to end up. And step 3 then of building career skills is being able to complete and create an effective application form, trying to get into that, the recruitment cycle. So we will help you with that then during that trimester 1. We have some dedicated job platforms that you can use. There's of course our own one for our own employer partners called My Career, but also we've got an international jobs platform that we're also part of called Hired. All right, so you will be able to search out roles not only in Ireland, but abroad, for those of you who are wishing to start their career overseas. Stage 3 then is kind of bringing it all together, understanding your brand, creating, I suppose, a sense for the employer when they hear your story that you are an expert in your field. Using the power of LinkedIn, you will get access to a very powerful course written by ex-LinkedIn employees. All our students rated very highly, but the point here being how to use your profile, your brand, to reach out to employers and create that impact that will get you into a recruitment cycle. And one of the messages we get year in, year out from our employer partners is that sometimes students just don't understand the amount of prep that's required when it comes to interview skills. They can tell us that our students are great at getting into all sorts of recruitment cycles, great CVs, but unfortunately they let themselves down sometimes during interview. So regardless of where you end up studying next year, word now is just to take this, if the one thing you're going to take from me here today is that employers really need to see impressive stories during the interview, right? So trying to get into the interview process, using the brand of Smurfit, etc., it seems to be quite, many students achieve that, but it's landing the role, right? Landing the role seems to be the struggle. So interview skills are important. And we are so serious about that. We have invested in quite a number of tools that you can access that will help you improve your interview skills, such as recorded interview practice. So many of you will experience a thing called a recorded interview. So practically 90%, if not more, of recruitment happens online today. And we don't expect that to change much, but it's understanding how to be effective online when you are interviewing. And so we have a number of tools, mock interviews, etc. The latest in what are the top tips in interviews. We engage with a UK-based consultancy who comes and visits lots of business schools, the top ranked business schools around Europe. We're very happy to work with those people, engage in trying to get you up to speed on what it is in terms of getting the role offer. And of course, employers, when they see you, right, they see you obviously as a Smurfit student who coming out with a top ranked master's in Ireland, if not in Europe. And also, how are you going to stand out then from the crowd? And so they really look to the extracurriculars. Now, many of you have heard this story year in, year out, but it's definitely true today, still today. So things that would be particularly important here at Smurfit in terms of extracurricular that you probably won't find anywhere else is that we've got our own dedicated public speaking club called Toastmasters. There's one here in Smurfit specifically for the school. Then we do other extracurriculars such as the Global Leadership Program. We'd invite all students to participate on that. And one thing that's probably unique in Ireland, at least up to most recently, is the Intercultural Competency Program. So these are extracurriculars that will help you stand out from the crowd and hopefully get that role offer. As I mentioned at the outset, just a very quick snapshot of where our students are going 6 months out. Now, it says there 2019. Funnily enough, the 2020 stats are just being released and they're very similar to these. The employers will range from techies, the likes of Microsoft, Google, IBM, banks such as AIB, Bank of Ireland. So the strong sectors are being, really look at Smurfit as a place to recruit students. Of course, the consultancy firms, Big Four there right at the top. Techies, again, as I said, such as Salesforce, a strong recruiter from the school. And of course, food then, like Blomby and the likes of Kerry would be very interested in hiring from Smurfit. The great majority of students stay in Ireland once they graduate. So as high as 77% of our students stay here and seek to work in Ireland and get their career going. Many come, perhaps they are experienced hires. We have about 28% of our students today are experienced hires, and they also wish to stay in Ireland, and with not many going overseas. But as you can see, some will pursue that, and we do have the services here at Smurfit for those of you as well. And again, as you can see on the right, quite a number of roles which represent all of our master's programs you will hear about today at the open day. So it's good to see that our students are getting the jobs that they're looking to seek for. Okay, so that was just a very, very quick whistle-stop tour of the career service and how we'll invite you to engage with us before you even join us on campus here. But today really is about our alumni panel and listening to their stories. And I'm delighted to introduce Nicole, Shabam, and Ryan. Guys, you want to just to say a quick hello there?
Hey there.
Hey Shabam, welcome here today.
Thanks, Michael.
All right, I'm just going to stop screen sharing now. Hi Ryan, how are you?
Oh, all good here.
Good. And Nicole?
Hi Michael, how are you?
Good.
Hi everyone.
So thank you so much for taking time out of your busy days. I know that everything has ramped up really since Christmas and we're all flat out, so we'll get straight into it. Perhaps Nicole, I'll ask you just to introduce yourself very briefly and tell us a little bit about what you did when you studied here and where you are now.
Yeah, so my name is Nicole Hawk and I studied the Masters in Management last year. So I did a bit of a career change. So I studied physiotherapy as my undergraduate degree and I worked as a physio for about 2 years before I decided to go to Smurfit. And now I'm working as a business consultant in Grant Thornton on their healthcare team. So mainly working on healthcare projects, which suits me.
Wow, that is some transition, Nicole. So would you be able to share with us just very quickly, perhaps what drove you to have that change? Why did you decide to shift gears into a different sector?
Yeah, I was working when I was working in as a physiotherapist, I was in a private practice. So with that came kind of seeing the business side of how the clinic was being run, and I was kind of managing my own caseload at the time. So I became really interested in it. And I started looking around and I found that a lot of people with healthcare backgrounds were actually going to Smurfit. So that kind of piqued my interest to begin with. And then it went from there after kind of talking to more people within Smurfit and the people that were running the course and things like that. So
Good. So it's great to see that it's possible then for people who are interested in changing direction in their career, and quite a different route you have now taken, Nicole. So it's good to see that you've landed at quite a prestigious consultancy firm here in Dublin. So moving from healthcare into consulting, while it's still within the healthcare sector, it's good to see that this is an opportunity that perhaps other students might be able to emulate as we go forward. So thank you, Nicole. Shubham, can you introduce yourself there, please?
Sure thing. So I did Masters in International Business back in 2018-19. Thereafter, I started working with HubSpot as an account executive. And that's a quick overview. Before this, I studied business as well. So it was more so specializing in international business that was of key interest to me.
And so when you came to Smurfit then, just to very briefly, just to ask you about that, so you didn't decide to do finance or anything like that. So why international business?
I think back from the undergrad days, just the way globalization was taking place, that was something of key interest to me. And I was always interested in exploring options to work abroad and work across different geolocations. And that basically translated into an interest in specializing in international business.
Very good, very good. And how do you see then, how is that, I suppose, enabled you then? How relevant has that experience been to your current role?
It's definitely very relevant. I think just leaving Smurfit, first moving over to Qatar to take up a small assignment, especially in terms of developing Zomato's presence, and then coming back to Ireland and again working specifically for the UKI market is quite an interesting experience and very relevant to exactly what we did. It's a real life application of that.
Excellent. Well, wishing you every success as that continue on that journey. So Ryan, you're the elder statesman here this afternoon.
Yes.
So cast your mind back. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, so my name is Ryan Reid. I did the MSc in marketing all the way back in the graduating class of 2016. So I've been out of college around 5.5 years, but it definitely doesn't feel like that. At the moment, I'm a senior client manager in MediaWorks, which is part of Core, which not a lot of people might know, but is Ireland's largest communication and advertising agency group. So I've been out over 5.5 years and have settled in kind of the agency life, focusing on advertising.
Have you been with the same organization for that length of time?
No, I moved around. So just a bit of background about me. I did my undergrad in arts and I did business and geography. So I had a bit of a mix. So I kind of knew I wanted to pursue the business side of things, and marketing was definitely where, the modules I enjoyed the most. So then when it came to finishing up my undergrad, I knew I wanted to kind of specialize in marketing and kind of do that. So the best place obviously was Smurfit to do that. And then I loved the course. And then when I left the course, I tried out a job in grocery marketing, which wasn't for me. Then I was in a creative agency, which I liked, but wasn't necessarily where you know, I didn't think it was fully me, but then I discovered a media agency, which is where I currently am, and have really enjoyed that. So I've been in the kind of this bit of the industry for just under 5 years.
Right. Okay. So it's good to hear that, you know, once you start off on a particular, you know, role or a particular route, that it is possible then, you know, to be able to maneuver into other roles as well. Because marketing, of course, been huge, I suppose, skill set and so many different roles. But it's great to see that there are those opportunities for people to move and to maneuver, perhaps into an area that you're more comfortable with. We get that a lot. You know, sometimes students worry so much about jumping into a role, and they think that's going to be their role for life. But it's heartening to hear that people are able to maneuver and change, and even maybe not as quite as drastically as Nicole, but you know, it is possible, though it is also possible. So that's great, and I think that is something that, you know, we seek, or a message we try to convey to our students here every year, is that first role, it's the next stepping stone. It doesn't have to be the end goal by a long stretch, and it won't be the end goal. So just, I suppose, so that's kind of a bit of background and why you decided to come to Smurfit, being the best school in Ireland, of course. So what were the highlights then of your experience during your time here at Smurfit? Shubham, I'll go to you this time. What would you say stands out for you in terms of your experience here at Smurfit, be it academically or personal, or whatever you wish to say?
I think one of the biggest highlights was the diversity. Specifically, someone who was interested in studying international business, just getting the opportunity to work with people from different backgrounds, different experiences, and different cultures was hugely something that I was looking forward to, and that I think went on to make the program that much more better for myself and the overall experience as a whole.
So where would you have experienced, can you give us some examples of that diversity?
I think in every sphere of that entire year, from may that be the group work, the kind of discussions that would open up, you just start realizing that, you know, different people look at it from a different perspective, and even the most simplest of questions can have 101 outcomes, and that probably 99 of those have not been thought by you. So that would just facilitate conversations, and you create a network which is so diverse that it stands in good terms to you for the rest of your life. I'd say. Very
good. So of course, yeah, that is a great point to make as well. That again, this idea of the network. When you join a class at Smurfit, you're automatically in a network straight away. So, and then the diverse, I suppose there's that cultural diversity that is so prevalent in our lives, not only in work, but also in education here. So it's good that was something new that stands out for you, Shubham. Thank you. Nicole, what stands out for you as a highlight in terms of an experience at Smurfit?
So yeah, I think the highlight for me was the Global Leadership Program. So, and I think that kind of ticks off both academically and personally, because I felt like while doing the master's, I was also doing another program at the same time. So you kind of come out with two things rather than one. And also it kind of forced me to do activities outside of the master's, where it can, you know, work can get on top of you when you're doing the master's, but when you know that you have the Global Leadership Program kind of coming up to the report that you write for it, that it kind of forces you to go out of your comfort zone a little bit, and make sure that you do like attend the careers office, and make sure you do you know, take part in some like activities. Just by the end, when you get to the end of the course and you look back, there are probably some things that you might not have done if it was kind of around exam season or have different excuses. So I found that the Global Leadership Program was definitely a really big highlight for me, especially doing it during COVID as well. So it was great. Yeah.
So just for I suppose for our audience, what is it? How would you define the GLP sometimes as it's described?
Yeah, so I think the way that they divide it up into the 3 pillars is really good. So you have to do different activities under the 3 different pillars. So, but you can kind of make your own pathway, because not everyone's going to have the same, you know, aspirations or interests. So you can kind of tailor it to yourself. And and there's loads of guidance with it as well. So once you kind of start into it, it kind of just goes from there.
So am I right in saying it's an extracurricular project and that it is non-credit bearing? Is that correct?
Yeah, and it's based off reports, but you know, with their activities that you're interested in anyway in, so it's not like writing you know, a tedious essay or anything like that. I found it really enjoyable.
But surely, Nicole, you must have been busy enough already with all your academic studies. Why on earth would one bother with this non-academic activity where I'm not going to get a grade? Why bother?
Yeah, I think for me it was, you know, I think you can get caught up in doing the masters that you don't actually end up doing anything outside of it, and you can look back and think, God, I really should have made a bit of more of an effort, you know, in like different areas that you're interested in. So I found that it was really helpful for that, making sure that like I said, for instance, you know, the careers aspect I found really important. So you know, I started going there because of the GLP, and then all of a sudden I realized that my CV and maybe my interview skills, like you were saying, weren't as good as they should be. So I may have left that until June or July when I started looking for a job, whether the GLP starts when you start your master's in Smurfit. So it kind of gets you on top of things. Well, I found that it did for me anyway.
Okay, so it sounds to me then it's a bit like, it's almost like a framework that allows you to explore other areas of personal and professional development outside of just your academics that perhaps people may not ordinarily pay attention to during the program.
Yeah, definitely. That's a good way to sum it up.
Okay, glad. But who do you think would value it then? So where do you think the value add is then? Where does it come in? Where does it start paying off?
I think I found when you're kind of prepping for your interviews, you start to, when they start, you know, asking you in the actual interview, and they start asking you things outside of your masters, because employees are interested in that, you know, you have loads to talk about because you have been doing different like activities for the last year. So I think when I was interviewing for my job, they found it interesting that I did Toastmasters and just different things like that. And then I guess the things that they didn't notice was my CV. So my CV definitely wouldn't have been where it was when they received it had I not put some effort into it as part of that program. So
excellent. So I guess it's about how it's positioned then, isn't it, for you as you go to your next goal, which is not only, I suppose, having a good rounded experience at Smurfit, but then also how we could position this in terms of, you know, landing the next role for that you're going, your next move after the program. So that's great. So thank you for sharing that, Nicole. And just I suppose just the last thing I would say about that, there is a certificate awarded at the end of it. Is that correct?
Yes, yeah. So you write 3 reports as part of it, but like I said, it's not anything that would have you stressed or anything or up late at night. It's fine. And then you get a certificate at the end. So it's like you've achieved 2 things, you know, rather than just one in the year. So
very good. Thank you for that, Nicole. Unfortunately, Ryan, I don't think the GLP was around in your time, but it's more of a recent initiative. But I guess, can you tell us what stood out for you from your time with us here at Smurfit?
I think it was definitely the people that you do your masters with. I think Smurfit's a great melting pot. It's kind of everyone is there for the same reason. That's very much, you know, to get the masters, but also to get the most out of masters. I know particularly my course, because it was a marketing course, a lot of people that were there are of a similar kind of mindset. So everyone kind of really gels well together, and you really do make your friends for life, and really strong network as well. For example, like I'm out of the masters like 5.5 years, and we're all still very much in contact, and you know, meet up regularly. We've helped each other get jobs. We've helped each other, you know, advise on each other's careers, particularly marketing. It's a very broad subject. So we've all ended up in different sectors, different parts of marketing, whether it's PR, creative, media, client side, all various sectors, etc., events, tech companies. So, you know, there's a big wealth of knowledge there. We've always relied on each other, and, you know, supported each other throughout. And even now that we're all becoming more senior in our jobs, it's becoming even more of a benefit and more of a payoff. So it was definitely, yeah, the people were like very much the highlight of everything. And then besides that, like obviously there's the academic excellence, which goes without saying. One part that I loved in my course was guest speakers galore from every sector, from top companies, Fortune 500s, big tech companies, big consultancy firms coming in, talking about their day-to-day, talking about what makes them different, and what we can get from them as an employer. And even my current job, actually, my business director, who's essentially my boss, she actually was one of the people that came in and talked to us in Smurfit. And like we have that repertoire with each other, and it's and it's I've met many of the people that have come in to talk to us at industry events around the industry, and yeah, it's just that great networking opportunity. So it's just that would be the biggest takeaway.
Very good. So it's great to hear that the power of the class and the power of that relationship that you build with your co-students, it stands to you in good stead over time. And that your network, as I said earlier on, starts the day you start in Smurfit. You're that another network. So I suppose, as you mentioned there, in terms of help, your colleagues, your friends helping you out with career decisions. So I'm conscious of the fact we'd like our attendees, our audience, to throw in as many questions as possible into the Q&A. But in terms of what advice would you give a student, about to join Smurfit, in terms of preparing themselves for the job search? What would your big point be? And I'm going to ask all our panel here today, what would be your number one tip?
I guess I'll kick it off. I think it's like you said earlier, it's like start early. It's start working on that CV, but also open yourself to opportunities. Like the master's is obviously very important, and to get the most out of it, but you do want to get the most out of it. But look into extracurriculars, look into things that can help you stand out. I know I've interviewed quite a few people for different roles throughout my time, and a lot of the time you're kind of looking at people that are quite similar. You've all got, like, everyone might have a master's, everyone might have the same grade. So when it starts nitpicking, you start looking into the extracurriculars, and you start looking into what makes the person different and what can really help them stand out. So definitely just kind of always consider that, and very much be building for that towards your end goal.
So I appreciate Ryan, and that's why I think it's good that you went first in terms of your experience of when you start hiring people. It is that unique story, isn't it? It's how people formulate those experiences and to create this unique story that will help you stand out.
Oh, very much, especially when your CV can get you in the door, but then once you're in the door, a lot of people are quite similar, so you just need to start finding ways that can help you stand out.
That's right. Yeah, good. And so thank you for sharing that, Ryan. Shubham, what would be your number one tip for career development for our students, potential incoming students for next year?
I think I have to agree with Ryan on the fact that you've got to start early. And I think, Michael, you touched on this point. The year flies by. Even before you realize you're settling in, you suddenly realize that the recruiters are already here. The first round of recruitment starts off. And being able to have all of your CV and every single thing in order before you start is definitely key. And then the other suggestion would definitely be open to change. I suppose just don't focus only on things that you've been comfortable doing in the past. The entire reason for doing the master's, go back to that entire goal of what's prompting me to do it right now, and then follow through even on the career side of things. Look at different career options, look at different opportunities, and rely heavily on the network piece, because like Ryan mentioned, people help each other getting jobs. Eventually you realize that any company that you're talking to, you might know someone or the other who's probably gone to Smurfit around the same time as you, probably did the same course, maybe a year ahead of you, maybe a year after. And that just becomes so much more valuable in the greater scheme of the career side of things, I'd say.
Very good. Well, thank you very much, Shubham. Yeah, I think there's a lot of good advice there. And I suppose I'm conscious as well that you know, and I did just go through it very quickly at the outset. There's so many resources that the students can avail of and access, you know, nowadays compared to even when you guys were with us. But just to be aware of what they are and engage with them as soon as possible. Nicole, we'll leave the last big tip up to you before we go to the Q&A.
Yeah, I think the tip for me is echoing, like, knowing, like, learning how to tell your story, but like with that kind of knowing what you're passionate about and making sure that a company that you're looking to work for aligns with that. Because I think you can be guilty of, when you start applying for jobs, the first person that says yes to you, you're like great, you know, thank God somebody wants me to work for them. But really, you kind of, when you look back at it, it's really important that, number one, like I said, you're passionate about it, and then or at least interested, and then number two, that the company, you know, that you are going to work for aligns with what you like. So if you like life balance, or if you like, you know, just kind of finding out like what the company is about, and that, like everyone has said before, that if you're looking and you're interested in companies, find somebody who works there, ask them what it's like, and it's a really good way to kind of gain a bit of insight into a company before you start working there. Amazing.
You know, you've brought out about a whole careers workshop in just a few sentences there, Nicole. But yes, I mean, the thing I'll pull from that is, you know, explore. Absolutely. And Ryan and Shubham have also mentioned that, about explore this during this year. Never has there been as many jobs available for graduates as there is at the moment. Over the next 12 months, I don't think it's going to change. So take the time to explore. There are many career fairs throughout the year. So for example, next week, here in Smurfit, we've got our spring fair, and it's Smurfit only, and there'll be over 40 companies at that looking for Smurfit students. So there's an opportunity to go see what they have and explore. But then again, also, in addition, you need to go and speak to people, as Nicole has just said. So find out from the horse's mouth what it's really like to work there. Thank you, Nicole. I'm going to ask Kathy now, perhaps to throw us some questions then that have been coming into the Q&A.
Thanks, Michael. Yeah, a nice steady stream of questions there. One question is regarding employers that perhaps students undertake a capstone project with, or perhaps an internship. Would they typically get offered a job post the project or internship, in your experience, Michael?
So maybe I'll throw that out to the panel very quickly. Have any of you had projects on your masters and you've seen this happen?
Yeah, we actually did our final year. We do a live project instead of a written thesis in marketing. And our one done our year was actually with Mondelez Internationals, who are the company that own like Cadbury, among other like FMCG products. Funnily enough, actually, in my first agency I worked in, they were my main client. And that was actually one of the things that got me into that. A big prestigious account was because I had such a knowledge of the account. But yeah, no, I think the live projects that you do in the course are really great at building up your own mini portfolio, so that when you do go to companies, you have examples of work that you've done on, and a lot of it is very relevant and very like relevant to the field that you're going into.
Of course. Shubham, did you?
We, as international business, we had something very similar to what Ryan's class had, where we did do a consultancy project, and definitely that becomes a great opportunity to connect with people within the industry. And if I remember correctly, I think a couple of us did get offers to go through an entire extensive process with them, which extended into internships, and some of them actually ended up taking full-time roles as well. So that's definitely, the capstone project is fundamental in the entire concept of that applied teaching method, and a good few job opportunities to translate from that.
So the short answer is yes to that question, Kathy. People would just need to be aware on how they use that opportunity. So even if it doesn't get you into a job immediately, it will give you those stories to be able to go to the next employer and impress them.
Great. You mentioned careers fairs, Michael, and obviously the one that we have next week virtually. Question here is, how does a career fair help in the job seeking process? What's the structure of it? And perhaps the panel have some experience of that themselves.
Anybody in the panel have experience of the recruitment fairs in UCD Smurfit?
I think what's they're really great for is talking. Like often they bring, you know, graduates that have been employed from Smurfit, and they can give you a real good insight into the application process and what they kind of look for and what worked well for them. So I think one of the biggest things that you can, you know, get out of it is chat to them, about the process, get the hints and tips about the application. If there's anything you can pre-prepare, anything they like to hear, the kind of applicants that they like. So you really, it is that going kind of harks back to that networking, which is kind of the cornerstone of business and one of the reasons of doing a master's. But yeah, and then it's also just to see the range, because I know from a lot of the grad fairs I've been at, there was a lot of companies I didn't realize had grad programs. Or even companies that I didn't realize would have, you know, marketing, from my perspective, marketing specific grad programs. You know, you kind of, there's a couple of obvious ones that you think of, but then there's others that do take on graduates from your course. So it's a good one to kind of really just open your mind and kind of see what there is there. And like kind of what Nicole had mentioned as well, is just chat, like see if it's something that aligns with what you want. You know, when you're kind of come out with a master's, you don't have to take the first job. You can kind of see what you're passionate about and what you want to align with and where you want to work, and, you know, try and seek that out. And I think grad programs can really kind of give you an open window into what's out there.
Just to add to that, there has been an explosion of grad programs in the last few years. I think employers have realized that if they're not presenting a grad program to the folks coming out of colleges today, then they risk losing the talent. Yeah, thanks, Kathy.
Great. A question as well around internships, Michael. I know internships are offered not across all programs, but, you know, I suppose, how do they work in you know, helping people maybe achieve direct entry to companies? I have heard of students being retained after an internship.
Yeah,
so
companies would obviously see it as pipeline building. So they're looking to get an experience of the candidates, and perhaps then shortlist some of those and put them into grad programs or other roles, direct entry roles following that, probably in September. But I suppose the major point is that around the internships is that no matter what company you end up in, they will want to hear about your experience and how you've managed to use that internship to gain business and commercial experience. So it is such an important experience, particularly for those who claim that they don't have any work experience. So yeah, it is a very valuable tool. Yes.
Great. A couple of questions as well about part-time study. So most of our master's programs are offered as full-time courses, but you can undertake them part-time, but would have to attend lectures during the working day. We do have two kind of proper part-time masters, which is the MSc Management and the MSc Project Management. They would be the two that would cater for working professionals who need the flexibility to either attend in the evenings or weekends. And equally, if you're an experienced person looking to do a master's, we would also encourage you to consider our MBA programs, which will be offered on a full-time or part-time executive basis. So just to mention, those part-time options are certainly there for those. Was a couple of questions came in on that.
Very good.
I'm just having a quick look here now.
Okay, I just got it. Yep.
Go ahead, you go ahead, Michael.
Yeah, there was one question there about consulting and, you know, the type of organizations that our students join in consulting, and anybody going into McKinsey, Bain, BCG. So for those of you who are not aware, but in the world of consulting, probably the top tier, the Premier League of consultancy companies would be those three, right? McKinsey, Bain, and BCG. And typically, they do not have offices in Dublin, except for McKinsey. So and even that is based out of the London team, right? Mostly it's peripheral. And if you do get a job in Dublin, you will be working across the UK and Ireland. But the point being is that we do have some students every year who join these top tier consulting, not necessarily just in Ireland. We have quite a number, for example, who would join in Germany. I think I've even seen one join in Saudi Arabia this year. And so that's in the class of 21. the most recent class. So I think, like most schools in Ireland, when these large organizations don't have an Irish office, it's difficult enough to get that role here. But if you're looking to travel, of course you can, and there are opportunities overseas in these offices for these large organizations. And so even, for example, I know people who've got jobs in Vietnam and McKinsey, for example. So, but yeah, they won't be available in Ireland is the short answer. But yes, students do join them every year.
Great. There was a question, we might end on this final question. I'm just conscious of time, but if a person has work experience prior to doing their master's, sure, does that count in terms of applying for the job? I suppose, Nicole, you've experience of that, having worked before you did your master's, and I'm sure it was part of your conversation when you applied for Grant Thornton's position.
Yeah, I think having work experience, so I had 2 years work experience, and I felt that it stood to me because I had you know, different things to talk about in my interview, but I also didn't go in through a graduate program, so I went in with my 2-3 years experience at the time. So it definitely stood to me in terms of the role I was going for, but you know, you don't have to have experience also coming from a master's either, but that was just my experience. I don't know if that answers the question, but
yeah, great. Thanks, Nicole.
Michael,
go ahead if you've anything to add, and I'll leave you to close then.
Yeah, so the market, the way it is at the moment, particularly in here in Ireland, that we would probably see that line in the sand, if you want to call it that, from the difference between experienced hires and pre-experienced hires or graduates, usually around the 3-year relevant experience. That's the kind of the line they would draw. But I do see more and more employers today definitely recognizing any prior work experience that you have, and you'll be rewarded for that. So it's good to see that this has been borne out by Nicole's experience. Nicole, you just finished last year, didn't you?
Yeah, I just finished last year, and just like you said there, so when I was going for my role, because they were looking for a consultant with a background in healthcare, they took the year's experience that I had as a physio, you know, and awarded me for that, I guess, which was great.
Excellent. Thank you to all our panel here today. Thank you to Ryan, Shubham, and Nicole for their valuable time and for taking the time out to be able to share their knowledge, their experiences, and their ups and downs with us over the past few years. So thank you so much for everyone for joining us here today. Thank you, Kathy.